crowned by the king, he making connections, he building his team, connecting the dreams, lock in on the vision, gotta believe, be about his business and you'll receive. Yeah, we crowned by the king, yeah, we crowned by the king, yeah, we crowned, had to get to work, had to stop all the chit chat, too many talents, can't waste them, yeah, that's big facts, making kingdom moves, standing on business like me, Shaq, aiming for our goals, click clack, moving forward, no need to reach back, tell me where I need to preach at, tell me where I need to speak at.
Alrighty, man, back again with another episode of the CROWNEDCAST, making kingdom moves, standing on business. I love that line, man. Always with me is my incredible co-host,
yes,
business partner, Mr. Joel Engulu. How you feeling today, brother?
Man, great, man. It's Friday, but honestly, I'm motivated to work today, and I'm excited about this episode. So let's get it, man.
Yeah, man. Blessed and highly favored, right?
Yep, blessed and highly favored.
But today, man, we have the incredible opportunity to have a just an impactful man of God, somebody that serves to a whole nother level. This individual has helped scale over 10,000 coaches, businesses, entrepreneurs to 10K plus months. This is really a definition of a servant leader, which is exactly why, he stood out to me. I wanted to reach out to him and get him and bring him onto the CROWNEDCAST today. So without further ado, we have Coach BJ Thompson with us today. How you doing, brother?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. BJ, man, I know you're a busy man. Your time is valued, man. So I appreciate you. Well, let's get into it, man. So first thing we always like to do is your testimony, man. Did you start out with God? Some people have met God in later ages in their life. Some people grew up with God, were PKs. And so tell us your story, man, your God story and everything else.
That's a great question. I think, it's a great question in this time, this climate, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like people are wrestling so much with spirituality that there's not clarity around your story. There's no God story, right? It's you go through these things, these waves. And, I'm a Dallas native, not a Dallas Cowboy fan or hater, right?
Oh, man.
And I grew up in the war on drugs. I grew up after post-desegregation, when the color line was removed, allegedly, and they pumped drugs into our community. There's a business opportunity, right? Entrepreneurship. And then passed legislation that allowed police to go in and to then create a war. So then there's a war on drugs. The people who are trying to get away with running their businesses versus the police. And then it just became a big war. And so I grew up during that time, the oldest of three. And so from a very early age, people talk about faith, because of belief and religion and this. Man, I had to have faith because my first shootout was at the age of 7.
Oh, wow.
And so when I think back at it, I remember thinking, I could be gone. I could leave this world very early. And so even without it being forced on me, I just had an awareness that though I am 7 years old and 6 years old, man, these bullets don't have a name on them, right? And so I can be gone. And so my pondering of faith started then. I strayed. I grew up in the church, but I was never like churchy. I just grew up very respectful of God, respectful of the church. I grew up in an era where you would do everything else, but then you would not curse on the church ground. You go into doing something bad, you tuck your chain in and put your cross in your neck. I grew up in that. Like, it's just like, it's more religious and sacrament than it was a relationship. And, as I was getting older, man, I just had a love for women. I had a love for just the fast life, and I was really good at it. And I really, was becoming a chief at it. And it's funny because people talk about fame and how addictive it is. Influence is addictive.
Yeah.
Having your way is addictive, and yet it's empty at the same time. I remember standing in a nightclub at the age of 17, and the party was just so lit. And I remember looking up in the sky thinking, is this it?
Yeah.
Like, this is where this all ends. Like, I'm going to be an old man trying to find and chase this aroma of life through, weed and money and girls and everything else. And I was like, oh, this is it. And I remember feeling empty about it. Fast forward, got to a point where, I'm coming into conflict with my own desires, right? So I want this thing, and yet this thing is not enough. And I'm also hyper aware that I could leave this earth quickly. Again, been in plenty. I don't say this to be extra detail, but I've been in plenty of riots and shootouts and just the whole night, and just hyper aware. Oh, I could be gone today. And so as I'm living my life, trying to find myself in this conflict environment, chasing this high that isn't making sense, I'm starting to go into a deep depression because something in me wanted to be better, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what it meant. I just thought, man, maybe I just cut down on some of my bad behavior and it's going to make things better all of a sudden. And it didn't work, right? It didn't make me feel better. It didn't last at all. And I was like, yo, I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do next, because I went from chasing this high to then trying to chase good behavior, and neither one of them worked. One's empty, one's depressive, right?
Right.
So I graduated from the high school in Dallas, and I remember my freshman year in college, I was like, man, forget it. I'm going back. I'm going back to what I was on, and I'm just gonna be the man, right? It just is what it is.
It's not working.
And I remember going through that first part of my freshman year, and just, man, I try to eat as much as I could. I try to be as much as I could. And I'll never forget the day my life changed. I had come to the end of myself. I had a lot of issues going on in the dorm with the students. It's just a lot. It was a lot of drama, man. And I remember looking in the sky saying, I was like, God, I don't know you. And I remember thinking, I chase everything to find love. It's empty, and it never loves me back. But the one who loves me, I run from all the time. And I don't know why. And that's when I said, man, I don't know you. As soon as I said that, I opened up my door, the second floor Maple dorm at the University of North Texas. Opened up the door, and there was a cloud of light in my bedroom. When I walked into the bedroom, I was in shock because the door closed and the cloud of light was there, and all I felt was love pour over me. As I sat there and the love poured over me, I kept saying, man, I want to come to you, right? Like, now I've come to the end of myself. I don't even know what surrenderance is. I'm having this supernatural encounter. I hadn't even thought about the fact this is a supernatural encounter, right? Yeah. Because I'm just in it. And I remember as I wanted to be drawn towards that light, I remember for the first time, I felt filthy. I felt my entire being felt like I had rolled through mud, and I was devastatingly filthy. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And I remember hearing these words. I was like, what do you want me to do? I remember hearing the words, and Jesus died for sins. And I was like, oh, that's what that's all about, right? That's what dying for sins feel like. I'm really filthy because I want this love. And I said, what do you want from me? And I said, oh, you want my life? I said, oh, you can have that.
Yeah.
So I went to the side of the bed, and I prayed a simple prayer. I was like, come into my life, change me. Be mine. Like, I want this life. And the next day I woke up, it was like scales had fallen off my eyes. I felt like someone had taken a weight off from above my head, and I could see the birds were chirping different. The sun was brighter, right? And I'll just end with this. And all of this happened without me being in a church, being around Christians, being in a pastor, no altar call, no nothing. I have been found by Yeshua. And when he found me, he then started to do his work on me, which then turned into all the things it turned into later, which is like global movements, everything else.
Wow, man. Dang, from the streets all the way to meeting God in your room, man. That's a crazy story, man. Because I mean, some people have like those crazy experiences where like God comes to them. Some people it's just like, oh, I went to church, I accepted it, and later on God reveals himself. But man, it seems that God really, really came to you, man. You're just like, you're obsessed with his love. And it's kind of like the prophet. I don't know if it's Isaiah or Ezekiel.
That's Isaiah. That's right. I'd never read that verse before.
You know, talking about when he goes to the throne room and he's like, man, I see pretty much he's surrounded by God who is his light. And he's like, man, I'm filthy. I'm disgusted with myself, you know? So when you said that, that's immediately what got to me, man. But did it affect your family? Like what happened right after?
Man, nobody knew what to do with me, man. You gotta, man, listen, man, y'all gotta think, man, I was a wild boy. I was that guy. So there's a public figure now. His name is John Cabana. And he used to do these crazy pranks. Walk into a donut shop, boom gang. He used to walk into a donut shop, knock everything over. Just like, we got to watch him act a fool on camera. And so when he came to become John Cabana, he's so radically different from who he was.
Right.
The people who knew him did not know him anymore. That was my story, right? I just did it away from the cameras. Nobody knew who I was. They were like, I don't know how to relate to you anymore. And so I think initially people thought I was just going through like a little moment. It was like a season, a moment. Oh man, I've seen this before, blah, blah, blah. I was spiritually alive. I was dead before. And I was alive and I didn't even know what it meant. It was so drastic. Because remember, I wasn't in the church. I wasn't in the dorm. I was in a dorm room from the streets. And a miracle happened. And I remember praying and I said, I don't have a Christian friend. I don't even know what that looks like. So I went and prayed and I found a flyer and it had like this little college Bible study. I was like, oh, I'll just walk in there. I walk in there. And when I walked in, I see these people. They've never met me. No one introduced themselves. No one had invited me. I walk in the door and all of a sudden I go, these people look like me. They look like they're like trying to do the thing that I'm doing right now. What they didn't know is that God had sent me there, right? They thinking that somebody invited me. They don't know God sent me. Fast forward. This is a critical part of this story. Somebody invites me to work in a juvenile facility. I asked one of the friends there, I said, hey, come with me to work in a juvenile facility. He's like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. So we go and we drive 20 minutes down the street to a place called Roanoke, Texas. I speak for the first time he does music, right? I was like 22 years ago. And the music wasn't really that good. But he was doing it. But he's doing it with the kids. And we just did this for 4 years doing development work with these kids. We wanted to see them actually change while they were in chains. And so as they were getting out, 4 years later, he looks at me and says, BJ, I want to do this project for them so that when they go out, they'll have a resource so that they can keep on with the things we've imparted to them. I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. We go and we put together this project. We grab all these friends. And when we grab these friends collectively, we put out this project. And within 2 years, we went from working with 40 kids in a room every day, no one heard about us, to reaching millions and millions of people lives around the world in 2 years.
Wow.
That friend was a guy named Lecrae.
Oh, wow.
So he's doing with the music that wasn't good, huh?
Oh, yeah. We started a global movement called the 116 movement. This is the second ever. These are all over the world. And
that's wild, bro. You got me with that one, bro. You did it on purpose, but you got me with that one.
Oh, yeah. But again, but my point to that is you don't know what God will do.
Exactly.
Like, no one had known me. Nobody knew God had sent me. And then I go find the people that are, then we're going to create global movements together.
Man, I love that, brother. Because Joel and I, we talk about this topic of like starting, obviously with you coaching people. That's probably one of the biggest barriers that people are fearful of, is just like starting, like 100%. Going. And we think we have to have the entire puzzle piece before we begin. But you start with like one or two pieces, you place those pieces down, and then other pieces reveal themselves. That's exactly what happens when you align with God's purpose for your life. Is like, I'm going to start. It don't make sense for me to start.
100%.
But faith without works is dead. So God wants to see us step in to that purpose, and he's going to provide the way along the way. And man, you're a living testament of that, which is so cool to hear.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. when you experienced that spiritual moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
The light came into your room. You had that experience with God. After that, were you one of those people that's just on fire for God? Like, I
Oh,
call them the
100%.
crazy Christians that just don't know how to act. Like, they just
100%.
out there just doing it.
100%.
Yeah.
Man, you got to think, man, I came out of the streets.
Yeah.
I'm known. I have a name. I'm not no regular person. So I did not know what to do. And my nature has always been a person of impact and influence. And so, this is the best way I can describe it. Because remember, everybody doesn't have these encounters, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a unique thing. I think the reason why God gave it to me, he made it, he just stamped this testimony in me. It's just like it becomes undeniable. So if I tell you something different, it's a lie. It's like if I describe my story in any other way, then it's actually not true, right? So then I have to tell you the whole thing. As someone I had never even read Isaiah before, so I didn't even know that's what happened to Isaiah. Then I read it and I was like, oh, I know exactly what happened. I experienced something like that, right? And so what I would say is, so this is the best way I can describe it. Remember, I was distant from the light because I respected it. Then I came to the end of myself because I was seeking, but then the things that I thought I wanted to live for were falling apart. It was like, oh, this does not make sense anymore, right? Then I was like, hey, I just need to be honest. I'm lost. I don't know you. There's no need for me to fake this. You know me. You know my being. Let me just tell the truth. So when I walked in that bedroom, I came close to the light. And that's when I felt the love. I just want to describe something for people who don't know this. God is so kind, nice, patient, gracious. His presence is not like what we just talk about. His presence is so different than that. His presence, the love that is from above is so distinct. It transcends even what we use the word love for, right? Glory, like the glory of the Lord is transcendent of even the thing we talk about as love. It's like, no, that word in your experience can't compare to what that actually is, right? It's just like a mirror. It's like a picture of somebody versus the person. It's like, yes, that's them, but versus the person that you meet is very different. That's how God's love is for anybody watching. But what I want to say about that presence is I remember feeling the presence come over me. And it was like it hovered over me for 2 weeks straight, right? So much so I would open up the Bible and I'd watch the words jump off the page. And I was just reading it and I was like, oh, I never had that happen before. I had never read scripture and saw the words jump out. I had never felt like righteousness. I was like, oh, I want to do right. Like I got a desire for righteousness.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a desire to tell people what happened, right? I had never done that before. I was never a religious nut. I'm sorry. I was never a religious fanatic because I was so cool. But it was something so compelling that I had to tell people about it. But then something happened. 2 weeks after, it was above me, right? First it was far from me, then it was above me. 2 weeks after it, the presence left. And I felt it the day that it left. I remember the day that it left, I just wept because I was like, you brought me this far to leave me. This doesn't even make sense. Why break me through this whole journey of breaking me down, building me up, showing me yourself, then to disappear? And I'll never forget this. My friend Cece, she was more spiritually mature because remember, I had no discipleship. I just started reading the Bible. So when I met with Cece, I said, I don't know what happened. And she said, no, he's in you now. And I was like, oh, he's inside, not outside above me. And so, yeah, that was a part of my like fanatical expressions and stuff. So,
Wow. I mean, how'd your family take it, man? Because I mean, you're a radical out in the streets and people saw you, but like you got to bring it back to the house. Your parents, your siblings, how did they take it?
They didn't know what to do. And what my brother, I've been discipling my brother in wrong his whole life. And so when I changed, I mean, my brother, my cousins, they just didn't know. They were like, I don't know this BJ. You're so different. You think so differently. And I remember my brother calling me. He's an undergrad. He's just breaking down because he started seeking himself. And I was like, you lost. I remember telling him, I was like, you just lost. And he was like, what? I said, you're lost. That's why you're doing this. You're lost. And I was like, honestly, man, I can't do nothing for you. You need God to do something in you. And it's funny. He's now the chaplain at the University of Houston. And he's like telling this story. He's like, my brother called me that day and was like, you're lost. And that's when I came to be found in the Lord. And so, you know, there's been miracles that have happened as a result of it. But like I said, it was so disruptive that it changed the nature of my family.
Man, that's
Praise
beautiful.
God, man. Praise
Yeah,
God,
seriously,
man.
praise God. That's beautiful because that changes generations right there. That lifts chains right there. Yeah, that's incredible. I forgot what I was gonna ask because I had something. It was right there. But go ahead, Joel.
Nah, so I mean, let's jump into it then. Like, as far as like business, like whenever you start your first endeavor, whether it's ministry or business, how like, because there's a moment whenever you feel like you fail, but it wasn't a fail, it was a success because it made you pivot, it humbled you. But like, you talk about like your first, like you were doing it for Lord and everything was like roses, rainbows, you were up here, and then that moment when it's like, boom, God took it away or something happened where you had to pivot.
Oh yeah, easy, man. Listen, if you doing Christian ministry, a lot of us don't have a structure. We're just serving somewhere. We're volunteering somewhere. We helping some people do some things. And, you know, a lot of people start there. They just want to be helpful. They want to help another person. And so you do that long enough to maybe you establish some type of offer, some type of service, some type of something. And so for us, man, that's what we did. We just helped people, right? We did mentorship with kids. We worked with the homeless. We just did all the things until certain things became crystal clear. And so, you know, my first endeavor was I started working with married couples and I was doing development work with them. And it started growing really big. And it was like, oh man, we're going from one group to this group to this group to this group. And it was just starting to grow really big. And I remember the first time it was like, how are we going to pay for this? Right? Like, I had never thought about it. I had never thought, oh, we got to pay for marketing. We got to pay for apparel. Oh, we got to have a financial structure. I remember just being like flat on my face thinking, oh, I know the ministry. I don't know the market. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, that was one of the many times I was humbled where I was like, yo, I want to serve God. I want to serve people, but I don't know none of the business. Does it matter? Should it matter? Is it not matter? And so, man, after going through that and seeing like, man, your bank accounts hit zero or it's just like, I don't even know, is this from God or we were just thinking about this? So, yeah.
So what'd you do? I mean, did you find a mentor? How'd you go about getting out of that?
Well, I just kept going, right? So I think one of the things is, one of you guys said it, is there's no formula. You just keep going, right? That's honestly one of the things that keeps people from growing in business. They stop, right? When really they need to pivot and keep going, right? And so I just kept stumbling my way into things. Then I started reading books, taking courses, hiring coaches. When I started doing that, it became a little bit easier to do. But I kept going. Again, none of this is possible unless you keep going, though.
Exactly.
Right? And so once I kept going and I saw, oh, I need to start reading these books. Oh, I need to start purchasing courses. Oh, I need to hire coaches to help me. Then I could run faster because I wasn't just running blind anymore. And so that is my greatest advice. If you believe that you were called to a ministry in the marketplace, buy books, invest in courses, and invest in coaching so you come in with a plan, not just with a zeal.
That's good, man.
The word. Let's go.
Yeah, man, because that was my life, man. Too much zeal, but not enough structure, and it burned down. And I got hurt, got mad at God. I'm like, did God even call me, man? But He did call me. He just was sharpening me up a little bit, you know. I don't have it all together. I need to go get help.
Yeah. See, people think barriers are a stopping point, but they don't. Like it's a paper thin wall of whatever you're encountering. Like you can just break through that wall, but you have to keep on going. It's the same thing with like starting, like we were just talking about in the beginning, is like the same fear that you have when starting is the same fear or doubts when you reach that ceiling. It doesn't mean it's a stopping point. There's a solution for everything. There's no such thing as a one-sided coin or one-sided piece of paper. There's always two sides. So if there's a positive, there's a negative. There's a problem, there's a solution. If there's a solution, there's a problem, right? But life is the greatest teacher, and I totally agree with you on what you're saying about that. So when it comes to coaching people, because you've been doing it for a while, what prevents somebody from making, because obviously you do scaling, right? So what prevents somebody from making 10K a month? Like, it's talked about all over the internet. 10K is like the new 100K, in the sense of like you need it. Well, essentially it equals the same thing, but 10K is like the figure tossed around. What prevents people from making that?
They're not clear. They don't have a plan. They don't have an offer. They don't have a funnel. They don't have they don't know how to take free attention to turn it into paid clients. There isn't a clear way to do fulfillment or to be able to hire staff to bring them on so that you can work on the business, not just in the business. And so because you don't have that, and you may even have bad theology around money, right? This is one of the number one things. People think if it doesn't work, then it's not from God. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. Maybe you don't know how it works, right? So you need to not give up, because you say that if this thing bears good fruit and you believe this is healthy and helpful for people, then there's no reason for you to give up. You just need to seek out sage wisdom and advice. And so what I would say is, when you don't have a plan, you don't have an infrastructure, you don't have any tangible goals, you don't have a clear transformation, then you're going to be stuck. Literally, you're not going to be able to do it. And you don't know the mechanisms to utilize on platforms. Every platform is different. So you have to learn how to utilize those mechanisms in an expert way while building the thing at the same time. And so if you're doing it blind, of course it's not going to work. You're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of money and see little to no results in it.
Yeah, I think it goes to Joel and I. We played basketball growing up, and everybody has different talent levels. Talent will get you only so far, right? But Kobe 100%. Bryant is such a great example of taking talent, but also putting in the work. Your talent has a ceiling. Your work removes that ceiling. So when you put in the work, you're able to continue expanding, and you can actually grow, because your talent can get you to maybe 5K a month, which is great. Hey, that's an awesome blessing. But if nothing changes, and you'll always remain there. And then that's when you start to think, oh, this isn't a God mission. This was a me mission.
Yes.
When God's like, no, I provided the resources for you to tap into along the way. Right. And so I'm sure you're shaking your head like, yes, bro, I deal with that constantly. So those are the problems. What in your opinion, I like asking entrepreneurs and coaches this question. Sure. What in your opinion is more important, marketing or sales?
Marketing. Marketing won't get you sales, because marketing gives you visibility, right? When you have visibility, and you have an offer, you can get a sale, right? You can't sell what you don't market. Right? So it's a preceding factor. Really, the more important things is marketing and sales.
Right.
But if you don't have visibility, right, then you cannot sell a thing, right? Doesn't matter how great your offer is. And so this is why companies spend so much on marketing.
Yes.
Because it's the most important thing. They don't pay a few $1 million for the Super Bowl commercial to be 30 seconds for no reason. They know there's a return on investment. We spend $4 million on ads, right? Then we're going to get a return of 16 to 20 million in revenue, right? And we may only get 10 million in profit, but that's a return on our investment. We have ROAS 2x.
Yes. Right.
And so again, it really becomes a numbers game with the marketing. Many of us don't have a conversion strategy, which is sales. But this is how I like to share with people. I'm not ever going to sell you. I'm just serving you. Right? So I teach people, don't sell them, just serve them. Serve them, share with them how you would solve their problem. That's all it
Exactly.
is. Right? Because if you're selling them, then you're trying to convince them. But when you're serving them, then you're providing a solution for their problem that's quicker, faster, and cheaper than what they would have had they just done it on their own.
Absolutely. Yep. That's huge. When it comes to marketing, what are the tools that work best for you, that get the best results? Do you do paid? Do you do organic? I'm sure you
Yeah,
do both. But what tools, tips, tricks can you give, people to take their business a little bit further?
that's good. So marketing means nothing if there's no infrastructure. Think about it like this. Marketing just shines a light on your business.
Yep.
Right? So if you go in that house, turn on the lights, and it's filthy, junky, everything's everywhere, who cares? Right? So don't pay for marketing until your infrastructure makes sense, till you have a clear offer, right? So before you go invest a bunch of money into paid ads, into shout outs, into hosting a webinar and doing this, make sure your business infrastructure is in alignment. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much you spend on marketing. Make sure your brand is in alignment with your story. This is why I can sell to Christian coaches, because people are going to test the integrity of what you say, because you're naming names. Dallas, this movement, that move. People want to see an alignment with those things, because the goal is for people to do three things: for them to trust you, like you, and feel like they know you. Those are the three things that you need in a brand. Trust you, like you, and feel like they know you. Once you've established that, a clear A to B transformation, an organized way that is a brand that is reflective of the founder and owner, that has integrity, that can't be shot up. Remember, people want to poke holes and say, oh, you're a scammer, you this, you're that. You want to be so thorough in alignment with your story that it can't be blown to pieces because one person said, oh, well, this person didn't do that, right? You want to be in alignment with that. Once you get that established, now you need to create specific profile assets from the ideal client for you to go find your niche client, right? Pay money to create assets or ads that go find your niche client. So when they come to your store, it's organized. The floors are swept. The counters make sense. There's a checkout with a register there. There's a process for them to go to A to B to solve their problem.
Man, that's good.
Yeah. Speaking of marketing, can we talk about networking too? Like,
sure.
Obviously you have to network, you have to connect. Can you give some 100%. Tips on some networking? Like, let's say someone's first time networking. What are some tips they can have when going to an event or just going to a fundraiser, whatever it is?
Yeah. Don't carry them big old cards around, man. Listen, you got the cards. Those are outdated, y'all. I'm just going to say this to you. You carrying around business cards are outdated in a digital world, okay? There was a time where you needed a business card, right? Get you a digital card so you can keep up with people's contacts, okay? Otherwise, it's just going to be a whole bunch of conversations while you're in the room. I'd also say, if you don't have a clarity on who you are, you don't know the utility you have in the market and in what you should be sharing while you're at that event, right? So relationships should not be transactional. They should be relational, right?
Right.
But networking in the market means that you hold a utility, and it can be transactional. It doesn't have to be relational, right? So I need to hold space for the fact that I can show up in these places and people are transactional, because we're talking about how we will connect the dots to solve the problem. That's it, right? Yeah. We don't have to be any closer than that. And if you can hold space for that, then it'll be easy to go in those rooms, have conversations, to know people, they hear you. Remember, know, feel, trust you, right? If they can do those three things in that conversation and you're listening empathically to who they are, then you share appropriately to what you do or what they do. Because the conversation may not come up about what you do. Oh, we host a podcast on Thursday nights that brings on Christian entrepreneurs to talk about start, scale, sell, right? Maybe it doesn't come up. Maybe what they do comes up, and then you say to them, oh, I know somebody that can help you, right? So part of the networking piece is you helping people connect the dots to the things that they need, not just what you want,
Exactly.
right? I think the last thing is, if you're an introvert, you just have to practice. You have to practice being around people in a way that makes you feel it just doesn't overwhelm you. So maybe you can only go to one every 6 months. Plan it out. Put it on your calendar to go, pay for that conference to go, right? Or maybe you only are able to talk to people in this type of setting. Intentionally create a structure for you to go into these settings to meet the people. But remember, at the end of the day, you're serving people.
Right.
Service is for another human being. It's not for an AI. It's for another human being. And you're going to have to be around people if you want to grow your business.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the value of having a network?
Oh, what? Man, look. The Bible passage when it says one, I think it says one can kill 10,000. What does it say? There's a Bible passage by multiplication. I'll find it. But it basically says with one's power, it's 1,000. But with two, I think it may be two, it's 10,000. There's a multiplication. You can't scale without other people, right? This is why having a team is essential. This is why having a network is essential.
Huge,
and so if you don't know yourself, though, you're going to find yourself being very clumsy in these interpersonal dynamics.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't know you well enough to know how people are experiencing you. Because it's both your intent and it's your impact with people. Once you get a good grasp and you're more self-aware about how people are experiencing you, then you can bring it out and you can leverage that experience in different dynamics, right? And so what I would say is networking, it's all about how you connect in these interpersonal dynamics in a way that flows and not necessarily disrupts, right? Because you may disrupt, but if you're disrupting, you should disrupt because you're trying to disrupt. Don't just be disrupting just to be disruptive, right? But when you're growing a network, now you're growing a base, a community, a culture, right? Of people who support you, know you, trust you. And then even that self can convert into a long-term retainer, where people then buy into a monthly recurring revenue experience. So when I say it is important, it is extremely important for you to know to create a network so that you can continue to grow and you can continue to get clear on what you do and who you serve.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, man. I forget what verse that is, but I know what you're talking about. But it's all over the Bible, man. 2 or 3 are gathered. That's there. There's always like the one strand of cord. One walks alone. 2 can pick each other up. But 3 is not easily broken. So it's all over the Bible. Community is necessary. So
100%.
I got a question for you, just to piggyback off of that, not with networking, but not doing things alone, right? Well, I'm curious about your perspective, your mindset when it comes to probably somebody making less than 10K, starting their, say, coaching business or a business as a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Do you highly suggest people to swiftly hire people or have a virtual assistant or start delegating, looking for volunteers to play into that so they can get 10K? Like, what's your perspective on just the whole solopreneur less than 10K?
Sure. Let me just give you my perspective, and this is what I give my students. The one thing you can't afford to do is to delegate too early, right? What I love about the Chick-fil-A even structure is you want to become an owner operator, you mop the floors.
Yeah.
You take out the trash, you make the sandwiches, you work the drive-through, I'm sure they probably cut the grass outside. They probably get them a lawnmower and make them cut the grass, the hedges outside, power wash the driveway, right? And the importance of that, and this is just a mistake I made early on and made it for a long time, is I delegated too quickly, right? So now I'm either delegating incompetence or I'm delegating to my ignorance, right?
That's good.
So now there's a part of my business I don't know. I've never touched before. So when it's going right because I brought a competent person. But if they transition, they leave, now I got a big gap in my business I don't know anything about. I don't know how to do this, where the papers go, how do I find this, how do I find that, right? Because I have not experienced it yet.
Right.
And or I get to a place where I bring somebody incompetent and I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know what's wrong with this area of the business, right? And so what I would say is I encourage my students to go through every aspect of their business and work in it. Wipe the floors, be at the register, do every aspect so that when you do delegate, you can give a clear SOP, standard operating procedures, with key performing indicators and a description of things. But then in your mind's eye, you know what's wrong, right? You already know because you've been in the position long enough. Maybe you're not the most competent person in the position, right? So that's not what I'm saying. I'm not communicating that. But you are aware enough of what needs to happen in that position because you stayed there long enough, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say, yes, do the solopreneurship at some point. But then as you do, to get back your time, quickly hire somebody that is taking on those positions that take more time, that bring less profit. That way you can get more of your time back as you begin to work on the business.
Yeah, that's really good, man. I don't know if you've ever worked in like a corporate environments or anything like that, but typically changes come from the top down, from people that have never sat in those seats and made those, done that actual work. And for that level of employee, that's probably one of the most frustrating things, because they always talk about like, this literally makes no sense. And the organization starts to resist that change because the decisions haven't even been made with those individuals being in mind, or like, hey, how does this impact your day? It's no different than that. I heard a story of Confucius, I think it was. I think it was Confucius, or Gandhi. I think it was actually Gandhi. But a woman came up to Gandhi and was like, hey, can you tell my son to stop eating sugar? He's like, yeah, come back in a week. And the mother was like, why didn't you just tell me right now? And so they came back a week later, and she brought her son and told Gandhi, hey, can you tell him to stop eating sugar? And he told the son, is like, stop eating sugar. And so the mother asked Gandhi, like, pulled him aside, like, why didn't you just tell him that a week ago? Like, you could have just done that. He's like, I'm not going to tell your son to do something that I already haven't done myself. Right. And so, that's the cost and the price of leadership is, hey, as you continue to grow, you're not going to be able to intimately work in those places, but bringing those people, your team in, and getting those perspectives to make those changes is super important. But man, you just spit so much fire with what you had just said, man. So much value there. I got another question, but Joel, I don't know if you want to.
No, go ahead, bro. Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
From the mindset, right? Like we talk about 10K, 10K a month, making 100K plus a year. What's the difference in mindset from somebody that makes 100K a year to 7 figures a year? What is the mindset, and what are the main differences of why there's that jump?
So it's a couple of things. One, you got a good offer, right? You got a good offer, right? It's hard to build something off of a good, bad offer, because you're going to go into the global market and you're looking for your niche client, right? The other piece is you have a clear process, just super clear. And it's simple, right? Again, if you're going to work with someone, just make sure you know the process. What are the deliverables? What's the timelines? What are the key performing indicators? Like, I need to know this if I'm going to work with you so I can know what I'm getting out of it, right?
Right.
Because people are buying the outcome, they're not buying the process. Then the other piece of it is Once you get there, you're documenting all the different aspects of this so that you can hand a team a standard operating procedure. That way they know what to do. So the difference is now you're not working on, this aspect, somebody else is, but it's super clear. You're not working on this aspect, this other person, but it's super clear. But you're also not accruing a ton of overhead as you hire those people out. This is the Subways, the McDonald's of the world. You're like, why are teenagers working out here? Overhead. That's why. Overhead costs. If they hire a certain type of person to do that job, it's going to cost them more to do so, making their overhead heavier than what they wanted for them to be profitable. That's why teenagers work at stores. Just think these are billion-dollar corporations hiring teams to run them. Okay?
Yeah.
And so keeping that cost down. The last thing is this. Getting to the point to where you scale with team and with marketing, right? The more visible you get, the more you got a team to oversee, the more you have to give quality to your client. This is what happened with Domino's, right? Domino's was scaling. They were making a lot of money. And I don't know if you guys remember this. They had to pivot because their quality control got super low. So they said, hey, our pizza is actually trash. We're going to start over. I don't even know if you remember this. And this is big. This is a billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
Realizing they were scaling, but they were not protecting the integrity of the offer. So they switched it. They switched the recipe. They switched this. They switched that. And then they had to tell everybody in the marketing department, let's talk about we made a mistake. Let's talk about how we're going to try this. Let's talk about this. And so the difference is your mindset says team, and your marketing dollars are reflective of scale. You cannot grow without putting more marketing dollars in. There's no way possible.
Yep. Say it again, man.
Yeah, it's not possible. So if you're not spending money on marketing, you're not going to scale.
But BJ, I just got this nice check. I want the Benz. I want the house now.
It's an investment. It's return on investment. Remember, you're trying to get the return on your investment. The more you are making sales, the more it's a numbers game. The more you notice, oh, I get 3 for 1 when I do this. Then put another 1 in. That way, you're multiplying how much you're able to return. But remember, you need a team to then give you back your time, because you can't do everything in the business. And the last piece is quality control. How are you keeping the integrity of the brand? You don't want dissatisfied customers. People start saying, oh man, this is a scam. Oh, this pizza's disgusting. Oh, Keith Lee came by and said, you rated this trash. You can crush the business with that. Yeah. You still have to protect the integrity and the quality of an offer. And then you can continue to see the growth happen.
Man, that's so good. So, you're talking about team, you're talking about teenagers working in stores, your typical brick and mortar. Billion-dollar stores, right? So now we have, in 2025, we have this whole revolution of AI and technology, like being implemented into people's businesses. What do you suggest, or maybe even for your own personal self, what's the best way that somebody can start implementing AI into their business so they can leverage, instead of leveraging a traditional employee or even a virtual assistant at that matter?
AI is changing the game, man. So I mean, even as I speak, it's changed the game. I don't even think we can keep up.
We can't
change the game.
Because the AI is doing other AI things.
AI is different, bro. Exactly. So, I think even just the humility to say, as you say it, it's changing. We're going to get off this call, and AI is going to even change before then. So I don't even want to get to that. What I would say is it should be a tool that you're utilizing to create order. That's what I would say.
That's good.
That's what I would say. It's a tool that you use to create order, but you are going to be the one that executes, right? And nothing can replace the human narrative, the human story. Again, I can say this, and AI can say, here's an order, here's an order. There's nothing replaceable about me giving a story. That's my story. The AI doesn't have the story. The AI ain't lived through no drive-by shootings. The AI hasn't had a supernatural encounter with Yahweh. The AI has never done that. That's what makes me bigger than the AI.
Right.
The AI is the information about that organized into a format that can be delivered to another person. It is not embodying the experience. It's never actually had the experience, right? And so I think when you know that, this is how you keep your competitive edge, but you also have to take on the journey of entrepreneurship and ownership. Otherwise, your job may be gone.
Oh, brother.
Right?
I just literally yesterday I read Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn. He said by 2036, I think over 56% of 9-to-5 jobs
Yes.
will be eliminated from the marketplace, and those people are going to be 1099 workers.
Yes. Yes. Man, listen, there's
2036.
no
I heard
more
even worse
safe
than that, man.
job. Huh?
I heard even a worse stat. I heard it was like 2030, man.
Well, this is what's crazy with that. I remember, so I used to be in the Air Force, and I remember reading a report, and I was an intel guy. I read a report, an unclassified report, and it talked about the implementation of AI. This was back in 2014. So the report said that by 2025, 25% of all remedial jobs, such as office jobs, even warehouse, and they named a bunch of different industry, those jobs will be eliminated. And I remember keeping that in the back of my mind for whatever reason as time went on. And 2015, 2016, 2020 is where we just started to see a vast majority of AI starting to be implemented into the marketplace. Here we are, 2025. And everybody around me, it seems like, is losing their jobs, unfortunately. And the cause of that is because organizations are seeking automation. And shoot, even Uber drivers aren't even safe. I was in LA a few weeks ago, and they had car or driverless Ubers picking people up. I'm like, that's cool, but like you said, BJ, you got to step into that entrepreneurship. Even at 1099, solopreneur, you have the gifts, you have value to add. Now is the time. You don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about this, again, if you're watching this podcast, I just want you to hear, you don't have a safe job anymore. That's done. Right.
Nope.
And because you don't have a safe job, the only thing is safe is you taking ownership, not being able to be fired, not being able to be let go. I don't ever wake up and think somebody's going to erase my name off the chalkboard, right? Because I operate in the market as an entrepreneur owner. You have been given gifts by God to create and cultivate the world. And because of that, you have a story, you have a lived experience, and you have skills that can be monetized in the marketplace. What I do as a coach is specialize in helping people taking their intellectual property, their skills, craft it into a course that they then sell to other human beings so that they can generate income as sole entities and owners. This is why what I do will never go extinct, because I'm teaching you how to be an entrepreneur owner as somebody who simply just wanted to work in the marketplace. And so even more important now than it's ever been, start your course, start that business, own something, own an asset. Otherwise, you will be replaced by tech. I just saw a Uber driver, a carless, Uberless, a driverless Uber driving back to my house today. And I was like, how many of these are going to be on the road? Thousands and thousands. That means all those people taking those quick jobs to go deliver Uber Eats and deliver this, that is about to come to a screeching halt. And the thing that your side hustle can't be it has to be you.
Yep.
You have to become the new gold mine and the new side hustle.
Man, I love that, brother. So with that, with your coach, you just went into talking about your coaching and everything like that. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
Sure.
What do you like? Plug what you got going on.
Absolutely. So you can find me at BJ Thompson 116 on Instagram. You can also find my YouTube, BJ Thompson. There's two BJ Thompsons. One was a football player, but you can find Coach BJ Thompson on YouTube, and you can just message me. I'm also an author. I'm in the Tarjay, so I'm published with the top 5 publishers in the world. So you can find me on Audible, Target, all those different things.
Let's go.
So I've also written as well. But I want to help you monetize your intellectual property, your skills, and your passion so you can generate passive income.
Love it.
I appreciate you, BJ, man, because for me, like, not to get racial, man, but I love seeing like successful black men who come from the streets or who come from overseas, immigrants, those stories, man, because that drive is like, it basically speaks to anybody can do it, you know, so there's no excuse, you know, man. And the way you spoke today, I know you're going to resonate with our audience a lot, man, because we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs who are stuck at the crossroads and they need coaching. So I really appreciate you for your time today, man.
No,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Bro, I know the amount of value you just dropped. Somebody could start their business today by just listening to what you just dropped.
Yeah,
And
man.
that's the whole point and why we do what we do. And now that they have all that game, they can get connected with you because, like, hey, BJ, I listened to you on the CROWNEDCAST.
100%.
I'm starting to make money from my business. Now I need coaching to take it to the next level. That's exactly what we want. That's why we have a network. That's why we have events. But that's why I'm very appreciative of you because I'm getting excited. I know a lot of this stuff, but I'm like, brother, you firing me up because I'm thinking about the people that are going to be listening to this. And so we appreciate your time. We appreciate you dropping the gems, dropping the knowledge. We appreciate your story and that you stepped into that relationship with God because it made you the man that you are today. And now you're impacting tens of thousands and millions of people, right? And so we're just so blessed to know you, man. How we close out our podcast is we like to extend the invitation for our guests to say a prayer and pray us out. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Let's do it.
Good. Father, in Jesus' name, we grateful for these two men who want to serve you well, who want to empower your people to accomplish the work of the ministry. You said that the harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. Pray to the Lord of harvest for laborers. Just thank you for these men just being laborers. Pray for their audience, those who are listening, who are scared. You said that the parable of talents, somebody was so scared they buried their talent. And you indicated that burying your talent was a wicked act, right? That the love that you have for us compels us to be courageous. So I just pray that for any listener who is struggling with fear, who's saying, man, I believe with all my being that God has called me to this. Give them the courage to take just the next step, Father, to reach out to a coach, to buy a course, to pick up a book, and just to start seeking the next step so they can implement the ministry that you have for them in the marketplace. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for the story. Never even knew this story would be told all over the world, but it's your story, a story of redemption from the dirt to be brought back alive to our Creator. We thank you in Jesus' name, Yeshua's name, our Savior who cleanses us from our sin, that we can be one with you in light. We thank you in his name. Amen.
Amen. That's powerful.
Amen.
BJ, again, we appreciate you. Thank you for your time today on the CROWNEDCAST. And we'll see you next time, guys.